Hey YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. In a previous video recently, we looked at dbt's semantic layer, what it is and what problem does it solve and how it solves that problem. This time we're continuing the semantic layer theme, but we're concentrating on a product startup product called Honeydew. David Krakov and his team reached out to me from Israel. They wanted to put their product in front of you guys, in front of the community, to make you aware of it. It runs on Snowflake. There's a flavor of it as a native application as well, and it solves a similar problem, but in quite a different way, as you'll see next. So stay tuned, listen to the conversation that me and David has next. David takes you through a kind of high-level demo and also gives you details around how to get your hands on it yourself if it piques your interest. Hope you enjoy. Hi YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. This week I'm joined by David Krakov, who's the founder, one of the founders of Honeydew.AI. Welcome, David, and thanks so much for making the time because it's quite late at night in Israel where you're based.
Hi, Adam. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Absolutely, this is great. And so this has been a long time coming. So if you're following the channel, we've recently talked about the dbt semantic layer and where that fits into things. This week, we're talking about something that is potentially a competitor to that, but it works in quite a different way. So I'm quite excited to show you guys the demo of this and to get into the detail myself. David, how about we start at the beginning of things? How would you define what a semantic layer is and what kind of business problem it solves?
Sure. So essentially, a semantic layer is this mediator, is the way to translate your data to your business language. It's a translator. And like when we're talking about that, about the business problem, I think, as you said, I'm founder of Honeydew, and when we started Honeydew, our realization was people are going to put all their data today into a singular place. Maybe a Snowflake, it might be a BigQuery, it might be a Redshift. It's Snowflake for us, and that unlocks so much value. You can enable lots of different teams, lots of different tools to operate on the same data. But the thing is, having the data in one place doesn't mean everybody going to count it the same way. Everybody going to look at it the same way, which is what for us was the realization of why we should even talk about semantic layers.
Got it. And semantic layers, it means different things to different people, right? And I think part of that is around where you would build that semantic layer, because you've got a number of options. In recent years, tools such as Power BI and Tableau came along, and they've kind of positioned things. Oh, you've got a level of isolation from your data platform. You can build your metrics and logic in here. Great if all you want to use is that reporting tool and you don't want anything else to leverage that data in a central place. So what's your kind of take, and why did you decide to build the semantic layer that Honeydew offers against the data platform itself on the data platform rather than outside of the data platform?
So I think you hit the spot on what happens if you put it in a BI. And like a lot of companies grow through that. They have their Looker or their Power BI, and that serves them for a while. And then suddenly they've got data science users, and they've got different teams, and they've got an acquisition, and suddenly they have so many different ways to access the same data that no longer makes sense to have that logic locked in a dashboard or locked in a notebook. Suddenly it has to be at the center place. By the way, you said one alternative is BI. There is an alternative that a lot of people do today, which isn't a semantic layer. It's building lots and lots and lots of queries, organizing them with some Airflow or dbt, hiring data analytics engineering team, and essentially build everything as a table a business user can access. And I like think about like when company grows and the semantic layer is no longer that one person who knows everything. The next thing is it's a process where there's a developer and there is a Jira ticket to change something, and there is this committee to review that, and there is a bi-weekly meeting to sync everybody, and it becomes this. I'm gonna build stuff in my warehouse or lake so people can consume them. So that's the other alternative, which is I don't put it in a BI, but I just make it a process of building a lot of queries, and hopefully that ends up in a table everybody uses.
Sure. And like you say, that can work in a fashion at a small scale, but all of a sudden it becomes a huge team in itself, it's something to manage, and the overhead and complexity that goes with that, right? And so I've got a couple more questions, David, which I think would be interesting for people to understand in terms of the positioning of Honeydew. And I guess my first one is, why did you choose to build it on Snowflake and not one of the other data platforms out
Well, I like Snowflake.
there?
Uh, um, I think that in terms of like the vision of having one place, Snowflake were about the most prominent advocates of that vision. And a lot of the market aligned in time with that, separating compute and storage, having one cloud data warehouse. For us, it was just a choice of focus and having a lot of great companies that need a semantic layer that operate on a Snowflake. So we'll target that. The idea of I have to have a place to store all my like business logic, how I calculate my revenue, or how I map a customer to my data in one place, disconnected from a tool. It's not unique in any way to Snowflake. But whenever you do that, it does make sense for that to be native, to be part of your warehouse, because that's your data, where the data is. That's where the gravity of the data is. And the closer the logic to it, the better it is for everything.
Yeah. And obviously one thing that you can leverage by building the product on Snowflake is the native app functionality. And it'd be great if we just touch upon that when we move into the demo in a couple of moments as well, David, in terms of the advantages to customers of having that native app deployment that's connected to the Snowflake data within that one environment, and how that bypasses some of the security concerns just by the nature of the setup. But before we move on to that in the actual demo itself, the key question that I've got, if people are watching this video and they're existing DBT customers, but they don't use the DBT semantic layer, is there still a need for them to contact you guys at Honeydew and have a look at your product? Does it complement DBT within a Snowflake ecosystem and environment? What would your thoughts be, and what would your recommendation and advice be for those customers?
Definitely, because the way we operate, we essentially complement how you build your lake, which is usually DBT today. And having the choice of how you build the data within the lake is not is orthogonal to the choice of how you build a semantic layer on top of it to democratize the data, to make it accessible for users. Most of our customers today are using DBT to build their data within Snowflake. The choice of a semantic layer has a lot of other considerations, and DBT has a great one, which I like. Still think that Honeydew has some cool stuff to offer that you can find within that.
Got it. So essentially, if you're a Snowflake customer, you want to centralize your data in one place and you want standardization of your metrics from a definition and usability perspective for all those data consumers downstream, as well as if you've got DBT or another tool at the moment doing your transformation piece, Honeydew still fits in that gap in terms of giving you that consistency and that enterprise breadth of view of all of your data assets in one place that not only your BI tools can use, but also, your data science applications, end users querying Snowflake directly. In essence, it positions itself central to all of the data and in between the users and applications accessing that data within Snowflake, all packaged in a native app. Is that a fair summary of at a high level of where Honeydew fits in?
Yeah, and we think ourselves as the Snowflake native semantic layer.
Got it.
A lot of our choices were making it native to how Snowflake operates, which is the native app, but also in how we create the queries, how we leverage different features, say dynamic tables, how we create our caches, and that kind of thinking is essentially why we position ourselves that way.
Got it. Okay, well, let's get into the demo, David, because I'm excited to show the people watching this video around it. I've had a sneak preview. I think it looks really good from a UI perspective. It looks very intuitive, very usable. So it'd be great if we could just step through the process of what it would look like, just to give people a flavor of it. Obviously, we're not going to be able to get into the detail of it, but if people are out there and this kind of piques their interest, obviously they can jump onto your website, get in touch with you via that. You're on LinkedIn as well. Search up David Krakov on that as well. But I think if you don't mind sharing your screen, we can dive into the demo if that's okay.
All right, sure. Right, so let's jump into it. And we usually start demos from the very end, from a user perspective. And the user perspective in an organization might be like here, a data scientist using hacks, looking at a few metrics. Might be at the same time a marketing team using a Tableau, looking at profit and say in a specific location. Might be at the same time on the same data and based on the same metric, which is revenue, a supply chain team looking at, let's see how we do on cheese.
And this is great, right? Because these are three different applications, all leveraging the same metrics, is what you're showing here, right, David?
Yeah, because and all of those, but if every one of them operates in different contexts. Tableau operates in one context, Looker in another, and the data science another, but all share the same semantic and the same metrics. So not very profitable in cheese, are we? So from that, let's see what happens under the hood. Because all of those three have sent queries to a semantic layer that translates that to the operational Snowflake. So what I'll do, I'll move here. This is our UI.
This is Honeydew, right, David? Just to be clear, this is the UI for Honeydew itself.
So now we moved into Honeydew. This is a control UI. The data flows within Snowflake to the application. We don't process data. But this is the UI that allows us to control and see what's happening. We have to collaborate and define. And we start with actually just taking a look at the last query, the one that we sent from Looker about cheese. Because from that query, we can start and zoom out on everything the semantic layer does. So in the very technical sense, this is a query from Looker, and we looked at the revenue and gross profit metric and a specific supply. So this is how the semantic layer, the central one, has experienced a user question, mapped it to terms, and did something with it. And the very first thing I did with it, which is again very technical, is created a query. It generated a SQL query that runs on Snowflake and calculates those particular question, those metrics on that segment. But that's like the technical way about talking about the semantic layer. Semantic layer is not query generator. Semantic layer is a way to agree on what things mean. So what's interesting to talk about is what goes into that query and how do we make it run.
And that's right? Because when people are using this on a day-to-day basis, it's obviously interesting and to go in and it's great to have the transparency of looking at the SQL that's generated. But on a day-to-day basis, no users are really going to be going in here, right? Once you've set up your various entities and metrics within those and defined them, then it's really just using those same definitions many times over for different applications and different purposes. And this is just a way that you can kind of look under the covers, right?
Right. And by the way, the main people that go into Honeydew itself is usually people who are owning the modeling, whether it's analysts or engineers, owning modeling and owning performance. Because what goes into this query is both the definitions and various performance optimizations, like cache tables on Snowflake. Yep. But we'll start with what goes into the model itself. And that what you see here is called the relationship diagram. This is the basis, the foundation of anyone who operates on shared data. A way to map, I have some customer data, how to map that to customer entity, and a way to relate things together. Customers have many orders. Orders come from many locations. So if customers and locations need to be together, they must go through orders. In our world, in your world, it might be different. But once that thing is set up once, anyone who accesses data across the organization will not ever think about those connections. And if a connection changes, it happens only in one place without impacting anyone who relies on looking at customers and locations at the same time.
And so, David, in your view, a data modeler would be kind of setting this up once initially. And I can see, you've obviously got the cardinality rules between the entities as well. They would set all of this up within Honeydew itself initially. Is that part of the process, would you say?
Yes, we also have the ability to bootstrap that, to migrate from query histories, from its existing logic in BI tools. Typically, an organization that implements a semantic layer doesn't start with a blank page. They
Mhm.
start with existing logic somewhere. So you can move that in to start.
Yeah. Great.
Now, so that's level one. And from the moment it's set up, all these joins will happen automatically, which means that if you add something new and connect it, everything you already had starts to talk with it. So if we now add demographic data and add the revenue metric, one can be sliced and diced by the other. So that's the first level. Second level of that is what we call a business domain. Because we have this shared semantic layer and there is a team setting that up, still every different team in your organization might want to see just a subset. You might want to control that. What the finance team sees, what's the marketing team sees. And control is not the same as modeling. So we call that a domain. A domain, like customer support here, is essentially a call ring, is a selection. Folks in customer support need to see those and those entities and have that and that data access. And this is a very lightweight concept, but it's extremely powerful because that's the thing that once you model your data, starts to map that data to how your organization operates.
Yeah. And can you have entities that span multiple domains as well, David? Does it offer that level of flexibility as well?
Yes, and we'll see that in expressions right now because essentially the way that both users and models experience Honeydew is one flat world. So everything is accessible and we take care about how things are connected. Um, and that goes to the last and third level, which is the definitions themselves. What is a metric? So what is, let's search this time, what is the gross profit metric? And a definition in Honeydew is essentially an expression. Again, technical and process. Technical is an expression. A metric is a function. This one is composed of two other metrics. So it's composed of two other functions. Process-wise, it is something you manage. It has a history, has a Git file behind it to remember changes. It has an owner, it has a description, has meta-analytics to know whether it's being actively used or not. It's a term that you agree manage on the organizational scale. On the technical scale, it's an expression that once set up, anything that asks about gross profit, and notice that that thing doesn't say gross profit of cheese or gross profit by week over week. It's in the question, but whatever question is, it will apply that function to that.
Got it. And it can do that, right? Because it knows the relationships between all of the different entities. And so no matter where you're slicing it by, as long as the relationships are set up correctly, you will get an accurate figure based upon the metric definition every time.
Yes, and then, as you said, those things are not limited to a single entity. So, for example, and this lineage, by the way, is automatic. It's a logic lineage. But if we go in Traverse, let's look at revenue. It's a base metric, which is just a sum. And this revenue metric powers a bunch of different metrics. One of them, for example, is food revenue metric. So the food revenue metric says I want to have my revenue filter by whether it's a food item. But notice the different entities. So from a model perspective, it's a very simple expression. For the engine, there is a lot of work to do here. Has to maintain that join, has to translate that, it has to apply that dynamically. But the idea of a good semantic layer is to allow to focus on really in the core business logic and allow to do that in a precise, short, easy way, both in terms of UI and like just how much code to write, even though that thing gets translated to 100 lines of SQL.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the other benefit then is the maintainability of this, right? So, you're trying to specify things, just once, not repeating yourself and that kind of, approach that we hear about quite a lot with some other tools. But I guess just specifying these kind of definitions in one place and not kind of relying, like historically, relying on data consumers to know what potential filters to add every time, or even if the data engineering team takes that task on, invariably there's the same logic repeated multiple times in different places. So updating things and changing things makes it very, very time consuming and complex, right? So I think having it in a way where it's kind of surfaced through a nice intuitive UI makes it very clear and easy to one, monitor and maintain it, in just having it in one place really just it emphasizes that repeatability principle, right? So I think that's a really important point that I just want to make clear for anybody watching, because I think that's very powerful, right? Simple but very effective and often overlooked.
Yeah, I found out that composable metrics like this one is something that people take a bit of time to grasp. But once you build one or two, you suddenly are hooked because you suddenly think about your aggregations as something you manage and reuse. It's not possible with just SQL. There's no way to make it function like that in SQL.
Yeah.
And this is one of the key points where semantic layer just starts to save a lot of time over time.
Yeah, got it. And is there anything else, any key points that you want to show us as part of this high level demo, David, as well in the last few minutes that we've got?
Sure. So I think one of the things I really like to talk about a lot is about this move from the translation of from data to business, from data to organization. Part of it is technical, but part of it is how you collaborate and agree. So you have one single definition, which is cool, and you save a lot of time. But now, how do you manage that over time? How do you make sure that people can operate, can experiment? Which is why you've seen here this small thing that says production published,
Yeah.
which is why we introduced the notion of branches. And a branch in Honeydew, so I can't, by the way, edit anything in a production branch. I have to move to a development branch to edit, which is in the middle of building a relationship here. But the idea of a branch is more than just keeping control and history. So a branch is a Git branch. So if you change, everything is audited. You can roll back. But more than that, a branch is a connection, is a data connection. So if you go and make an experiment, change something in the semantic layer. I want to look at my revenue. It's defined a bit differently. You can go connect whatever you had to the new endpoint and just see reports and how that affects them.
Okay.
You can validate, you can experiment, you can treat the whole semantic layer as this very flexible base to experiment with. But then once that experiment is over, to publish that back into production, suddenly you can introduce control. Because the movement from a production branch back in will involve a pull request, code review, automated testing, whatever the organization wants to add in that. And this move from flexibility to a source that's validated and trusted is like at the core of the process of making the thing work over time.
Yeah, and I think I think that's super important to have that built into all kind of software engineering tools these days to have that robust development lifecycle. One thing that you just touched upon there, David, is that you can query and point your data consumption tools, like your BI dashboards, for example, to different endpoints. Is that the main way of connecting, from your your lookers and tableaus, etc., into Honeydew? Is it via an endpoint, and that's how it's consuming these metrics?
So that's one. But this is a great opportunity to also talk about other ones like the native application. So for us, the Snowflake native application is part of our integration. So it operates along the way for different tools, but it's also a direct way to access the data. So if we move here to the native application, what you see here is essentially a native application call from within the Snowflake IDE that goes and asks for a dimension and few metrics from the shared semantic layer to build data within the Snowflake environment. And we get the same graph of gross profit and revenue because this is what I asked. And having something out there enables just to stay within that, but also enables applications connected to Snowflake talk to the semantic layer in an applicative way, in a programmatic way.
Yeah. And obviously the benefits then, just briefly, David, I know we touched upon the kind of native app kind of flavor of Honeydew earlier on in the call, but the real benefits for customers, what would you say at a high level of using the native app from like a security and data movement perspective from your perspective?
So native app enables both, on one hand, integrations within the same Snowflake connection, but moreover, it means that the data stays within it. We're also operating through the Snowflake marketplace. So that means that both in the terms of the actual installment and contract and payment, that also can go through the same Snowflake ecosystem. So the idea of a native app extends from having an integration that just keeps data in and compute in into having an application that you can run within an environment and pay for within the environment without introducing any other vendors.
Got it. If people have seen this, and David, we're getting close to the end, so you can stop sharing your screen now, and we can just have a little chat just for a couple of moments. If people have seen this and they go, "This seems really interesting, and I kind of want to go deeper into this, or I want to get hands-on with it," is there a trial version? Is there a way that people can kind of access this and get hands-on? What's the approach there for people?
So go to our website, set up a link, 15 minutes onboarding call, and you're there. You can run with the product. We find that in large organizations, when you deploy that, the fact that we helps to realize the value fast.
Yeah.
People who just want to play with the product are very, very welcome to.
Great. Okay, so that's Honeydew.AI, the website. That's what you need to go to. If you've got any other questions for David, and if you want us to go into more detail and you want David to have another late night and go through some more stuff, let us know below, or by all means, David, they can reach out to you on LinkedIn and drop you a message on that. David, just before we wrap up the last couple of moments, I just want to ask you, what else do you want to add in terms of the roadmap and vision for Honeydew in terms of a product going forwards that people should know about, in your opinion?
I think, I guess, long-term, medium-term, long-term vision, and we've seen that play out across the tree, is the fact that AI gets introduced. When you want to push AI into data, you better understand your business. And the way I think about semantic layers in that context is the semantic layer is codifying your business in a way that AI can operate on. If you want to have an LLM saying, I want to calculate revenue, a semantic layer is the only way to map that revenue into a SQL that's controllable and repeatable. So I think that when you think about long-term vision, AI is just can't operate really on data without a semantic layer in between, which is also something that we already started internally. We select few to see how that operates.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, that's great to know, and I'm sure that's going to be. It's obviously a majorly hot topic at the moment, but like you say, it means that you've got to make sure that you've got your data assets and foundational kind of aspects in order before introducing AI, so you can actually leverage it to the full potential, right? So I think that makes sense. David, look, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you staying up super late after midnight there and taking us through the demo and sharing all of that information with everybody. As David said, if you want to trial, hit them up at the website. Look up David on LinkedIn, David Krakov. In the meantime, David, thanks so much for your time and thanks for taking us through that demo.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Hey, it's Adam here, and I just want to jump in real quick and just give you the latest information on the Mastering Snowflake program. It's now in its third year and it's doing really well, and there's more people than ever showing interest and joining the program every single day as we enter the new year of 2024. And this has been designed really for people who are quite experienced working as an IT data professional. Most of the members on the program have between 10 and 15 years experience working with commercial databases. They're very comfortable with SQL and all of the different terminology that goes with data warehousing and running databases at an enterprise scale. And so these people, they might have scratched the surface of Snowflake. It may have intrigued them. They may have no knowledge of Snowflake, but a lot of sort of Teradata, SQL Server, Oracle on-premises experience. And they want to know, crucially, how do they leverage all of that time and money that they've invested to get to the point in their careers they are today and leverage it for the cloud with Snowflake. So I designed a program exactly for those kind of people, because back in 2017, when I first got my hands on Snowflake, I was in a very similar position. I had to learn through trial and error, testing out what worked, testing out what didn't work, and then coming up with a set of recipes that really worked in Snowflake to address common real-world challenges. And so once I had those, I packaged those up and put them into this program. And this program's certainly not about theory. Of course, I introduce what the technology and capabilities of Snowflake does, but crucially, I tell you how you can package up Snowflake's out-of-the-box capabilities to address real-world challenges. I run through with live demos. I provide you with my code, assets, and templates to download and use within your own environments, or use as a starting point to customize further. You'll get access to my Everest guide to help solidify some of the knowledge that you're gonna be recipient of during the program as well. So, three different kind of areas to the program itself. One is the on-demand training portal, available 24/7 with all those downloadable assets on. It's all video content produced by myself, so you know who's delivering that. You know what the learning style is going to be like from watching these kind of YouTube videos. It's going to be direct, it's going to be to the point, and it's going to be enabling you get the maximum value for yourself, your career, and your organizations that you're working for or working with. You'll also, as a member of the program, get access to the private members only LinkedIn group. All our members globally who join the program get access to this. It allows you to ask any questions around the course, around Snowflake. That could range from interview, question and answer guidance through to other tooling, such as Matillion, DBT, Elation, Power BI, you name it. You can ask the question there, and I will help you to the best degree I can. But of course, I don't know everything. The other members then can also join in that conversation and share their own unique set of experiences, because everybody's on this journey together. Further to that, there's a weekly 60-minute group consultancy call, again hosted by myself. You can come in and it's a different vehicle for you to ask questions and get guidance and support. Different vehicle than the LinkedIn group. It provides live real-time feedback. Finally, it's a one-off investment to join the program, but once you're in, you are in for life, and you will not pay a single cent or penny more to get access to all future updates to the program. And the great thing is, we can drop things into the program as and when we see fit, based upon members' feedback or based upon new features and services Snowflake are releasing to the market, which is very frequently, if you don't know, Snowflake release new features every single month to the market. So we'll apply a lens to that and work out what's publicly available to Snowflake customers and what's going to be most impactful for our members to learn. At this point, you may be aware that I've authored a couple of books on Snowflake as well. And so you get the chance to work with me and help build this community out. In the program, we cover 10 modules. Within each module, there are a series of lessons going into real depth in each one, and we get to an advanced level of knowledge. So we try to cover everything possible from a capability perspective within Snowflake. The Snowflake lessons are continually evolving, as I mentioned, as Snowflake grows and evolves as a product as well. And a great example of that is Module 10, Developing Applications in Snowflake. We've recently added native application demos in there, so you know how actually to package up and create your own native applications. We've also got Streamlit lessons in there, where we hook into the OpenAI API and actually query large language models in Snowflake. We also hook into the Snowpark API and work with Snowflake as part of those lessons. So loads of value, loads of great feedback. Here's all the lessons, loads of great feedback from various valued members who are also part of the program, because as I mentioned, Once you join, you're in there and you continually get value from that, and it follows you as you and your career grows. Some of the people that joined at the outset 3.5 years ago still have access and still get continual value today. I hope you find that useful. If you want to apply, it's invitation only, and I review all applications personally. So have a look in the link in the video description, and I'd be really pleased to welcome your application to the program.